Hi, today we're going to be talking about estimating with decimals. And let's go ahead and get started. Think of two examples where decimals are used in real life. Write those down on your paper. Did anybody write measurements down? How about money? You could have had another example. That's why I have other there. Why is it useful to estimate? Why do we need to know how to do that? Sometimes we need to get a rough idea of dollar amounts. Maybe you're out shopping somewhere and you're trying to get an idea. Maybe you have several things you want to buy. And it's a good skill to have to be able to estimate so you know if you have enough money. In other words, you might also want to use this with measurements. Maybe you're out getting some paint or something for a bedroom or some other room in your house or carpet, and you've got to have a rough idea. Of course, you need exact measurements of your room, but you need a rough idea. They're not always going to be exact measurements on a paint can or something that you know, carpeting or whatever it is that you're going to be using in that space. And sometimes we use estimates when we are averaging something. So those are just a few examples of, you know, why it's useful to estimate. So how do we estimate decimals? So I've got three problems here that have decimals in them, and we're going to go through each one and talk about how would we do that with a decimal. Well, really it's not any different than it is with whole numbers. We're still going to be looking at a certain place and determining whether that digit is 5 or above, which will make my number higher, or if it's lower than 5, then it's going to make my number stay the same. So if we look at the first decimal that we have 23 and 4/10. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at the 4, because that's in the decimal spot, and we're going to decide, is that 23 and 4/10 closer to 23 or 24 as a whole number. So I kind of like to think of it as money, because sometimes money makes more sense when we think about numbers. So if we think of that as $23.40, is that closer to $23 or $24? Well, you would probably say that it's closer to 23, and you would be correct. So this particular decimal would estimate as 23. Okay, if we take a look at the next decimal that we have 4 and 6/10. And we're going to look at the 6/10 to determine whether my decimal is closer to 4 or closer to 5. And again, if you want to think of it as money, you can. You can think of it as $4.60. Is that closer to $4 or is it closer to $5? Well, in this case, it's closer to 5. So 4 and 6/10 would round to 5 if we want to think of it that way. The next one is 2 and 7/10. Again, we have 7 in the decimal place, and that is definitely higher than 5. We can think of it as money, or we can just look at the digit 7 and say, okay, that 7 is going to make that 2 turn into a 3 because it's bigger than 5. If you want to think of it as money, it would be $2.70, which is definitely closer to $3 than it is to $2. So this one would be 3. We have 242 and 3/10. And when we look at that 3/10, that's going to make my 242 stay, 242. Okay. We've got 3 and 2/10. Again, my 2 is in the decimal spot, and that is definitely lower than 5, so that's going to make that 3 stay 3. And 4 35 hundredths, and we can think of that as money if you'd like, $4.35. That's closer to $4 than it is $5. So to summarize what we've done today, it's a pretty basic lesson on rounding. Even though we're calling it estimating, we're basically rounding to the nearest whole number. So we talked about why we should estimate, and we talked about how to estimate, and we did several examples. Make sure that you write down any questions that you have. Bring them to class, and thank you for watching.